Okay, so all we're really going to cover on this webinar, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I'm just going to talk about the different values that you can use for setting font sizes. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of each of them. And then we're going to look at how I set font sizes in Divi. Now that we've got the new layout packs that are being used, a lot of the font styles and properties are coming in the modules. So I'm going to show you how you can override those font styles and properties from your style sheet to save you having to go into each individual module on the layout pack and change those in the modules, which is obviously time consuming and defeats the object of having the layout packs, which is supposed to speed up the process. I'm going to share my screen with you. I've created a quick page that just uses the different H tags, so H1 through to 6, on a standard blog post, and then I'm going to apply the CSS that I'm talking about to that so you can see it in real time, and then I'm going to show you how I would add that to a style sheet. So let me just, and again, yeah, any questions that you have, if you just drop it in the comments. David is acting as our mediator today, so any comments that you have, he'll read out to me and I'll try and answer. If you've got anything particular that you'd like to see, we've got time, so drop it in the comments, and if I can, then I'll take you through it. But let me just share my screen here.
Awesome.
Let me know when you can see that, David.
We can see it, SJ. You're good.
Okay, so I've just set up this quick post. If we look at this on the front end, it's just a standard text-based post, and we've got the various different headers in here. So we've got H1 header, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6, and standard text. Now, Divi on its own isn't going to do too much to that. If I inspect the text there, we can see it. And we can see that the H1 tag has some basic font styles, and the H1, hold on, let me just clear this and refresh, because it's still picking up my my CSS. Well, it's still picking up my CSS. So you can see that I've added stuff to the style sheet to change the standard pixels that Divi does into EMs. And I'm just going to talk through what the main different font values that you can use. We're just going to see why that is not cleared from the style sheet.
Clear your cache, SJ. Clear your cache.
It's a local install with the cache turned off, so it shouldn't be doing it, but it seems like the browser's doing some stuff of its own accord, but we'll clear that.
While you're doing that,
okay, so there we go, that's gone. So you can see by default, Divi is giving your H1 tags, your H2 tags, and everything else a fixed pixel value. So a pixel value is quite self-explanatory. Every pixel on your screen is equal to 1. So if the font size is set to 30 pixels, then the font, whatever font it is, will be 30 pixels maximum. So to show you what that actually means, here is the standard Divi font size, which is 30 pixels. And if we zoom right in so that we can see pixel for pixel on this screen grab that I did, you can see that from the very top of the highest letter all the way down to the very bottom of the lowest hanging letter is exactly 30 pixels. So it doesn't matter what font you're using. It doesn't matter about anything else. It's 30 pixels if it is set to 30 pixels, and that's across all browsers. Now, that makes pixels a fairly popular value when setting fonts, because you know exactly what you're getting. So you'll find that it's not just Divi. A lot of themes will use pixels as their standard setting for setting font sizes. Now, What that does mean is that if you're trying to create responsive text, then you're going to have to write media queries to make sure that you're changing that sizing. That's not done for you of its own accord. So let's see what I mean by that. So if I adjust my screen here, you can see that my font size isn't changing. So if I do
Nice
this,
background.
you can see that that's
desktop.
staying the exact same.
Nice desktop.
That's Hogwarts, baby.
I know. I have desktop envy now.
Yeah, so you can see that that size isn't changing. So I'd have to write media queries to adjust that size. So the pros of pixels then is that you know exactly what you're getting. It's very sort of cross-browser friendly. The downside is you're going to have to write a bunch of media queries to make sure that the text is adjusting on different sizes, or you're going to end up with text that is too small on desktop or too large on mobile. Something else that you can do is you can set your font size using keywords. So I've got StyleBot installed, so I'm going to show you how to do this using StyleBot, but you could equally just write this CSS directly into your child theme or into the custom CSS tab in the customizer. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to write H1, which is these two pieces of text here. And I'm going to put font size XX small, or that could be X small, or it could just be small.
SJ, do me a favor. I'm going to stop you here just for a quick second. Can you move your and my pictures over to the left side of your screen, because it's blocking them from seeing what you're typing? So
can I move the what? Sorry.
Our face, mine and your face.
Okay. Let me adjust my.
Yeah, move it over to the left side so that way.
Yeah, I'll come out of full width so that you can.
Yeah,
you can see that because you're in. Your big bald head's in my way. Okay.
Well, you can move that frame around and get it out of that top spot. So that's good. You got it good now. That's perfect.
Is that better? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, so if I write H1 font size, and then I could set that to medium, and then that would adjust the text, or I could set it to XX small, which would be really, really tiny, or I could set it to XX large or X large. So there are 7 values that it could be. It could be XX small, X small, small, medium, large, X large, and XX large. So the good thing about setting it using a keyword is that it is very, very similar across Safari, Chrome, Internet Explorer, Edge, Opera. All of the browsers handle those keywords almost exactly the same. A downside to that then would be that it's not very granular. You've only got 7 possible settings, and you're not setting those based on the actual pixel size or any known size that you can measure. You're just using whatever the browser reverts to for those keywords. So on the plus side, it's quick and it's easy. On the downside, it's not very granular. So if you're somebody that likes to get complete control over your font sizing, then this isn't really going to be for you. The other popular one is percentages. So setting things as, let's do 100%. So how that works then is that whatever the parent item is that has a fixed pixel size, this will just revert to a percentage of that size. So if we click on that and inspect again, now I've set that to 100%, we can go down the tree and just look to where a font size is actually being applied. So we're going all the way back. Font size 100% again. Font size 100% again. So we've gone all the way back to the HTML, and there's no fixed font size. Body 14 pixels. So I'm overriding that with my 100%. So essentially, my H1 tag has now become 14 pixels because the next parent down was the body element, and that is a fixed pixel setting of 14 pixels. So if I set that to 200%, then I would be double whatever that fixed setting was. So the body was 14 pixels. So now I'm at 28 pixels. So percentages are a really good way of setting that, but just bear in mind that you are setting it directly to its parent. So if you change the parent size, then you are changing the percentage size. So it's quite handy to use. My favorite is the next one that I'm going to talk you through, which is EM. So to show you how that works, we know that the body...
Before you dive off in EM, got some comments over here. I want to pass them through to you.
Okay, come at me.
I don't want to derail you at the same time. So,
no, that's fine. This is a good stopping point, actually, to answer some questions.
Yeah. So Elizabeth says that unfortunately on her end, her screen's too small. She can't see what you're typing and stuff there. She doesn't know if there's a magnifying option. So I don't know if there's anything that you can do. Elizabeth, we will address this. This is our first quote unquote rodeo, using an American term over here, SJ. I hope you don't mind. It's our first time doing this. So give us feedback, any feedback that they have.
I don't know if right now there's any option that I can adjust the text sizes in CSS Spot, but I will check, and then next time we do this, I'll try to make sure that that's larger.
Yeah. I think most of the, they're saying they love the concept. You know, they know that we're going to get it ironed out and stuff. And
are we going to do a wrap-up post after, and just so I can drop the code somewhere so people can see it?
We will. We will do a wrap-up post and on Divi Space, and we will drop the code in a blog post as well. He said move style bot to the left-hand side, possibly.
Oh, is that to solve mine and your head being in the way?
Potentially,
I can do that.
Yeah, with your head. Let's go to the left side. That's a great idea.
There we go. That's a good idea. All right, we're hanging out on the left.
Yeah, and we're a few seconds delayed, so whenever it comes through, I'll go ahead and check it. And he wants to know, Corey says, if you could zoom in on the browser, that would be good. Which I don't know if you hit Control plus. I know on Macs it's Command. Yeah, there you go. That's perfect.
Yeah, I'm just I don't want to go too far, and then because it will change the media queries that I write in a little while. So
okay. Yeah, well, we'll get the bugs out later.
But yeah, is that a bit better? That's a bit better, isn't it? But yeah.
Yeah, and Michael says to try maximizing the browser window and just do the webinar in Zoom, which is what we're doing. So if you want to put it back.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a bit better, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot better. Absolutely.
See, look at this, troubleshooting from the community. Loving it.
Loving the community. Thanks, Michael, for that tip. Hi, Noel and Elizabeth. Thank you for all the feedback. Go, SJ. We're talking about EM, your personal favorite.
Yeah, so we've covered off pixels and why you should or shouldn't use them. We've covered off using the keywords and percentages. The next thing I want to show you is EM, which is my favorite one. And just to talk a little bit about how that works. So kind of like percentages, EM take their value based on something higher up the tree. But what they do is they take their value from the fixed pixel size of the body tag. So if your body is set to font size 14 pixels, then 1 EM is equal to 14 pixels. So if you set it to 2 pixels or 2 EM, then that would be the equivalent of 28 pixels. So for me, this is really, really handy because it allows me to base everything on my website from the sizes that are given on the body tag, which means that all I have to do to adjust sizes for different devices is write media queries for the body element and nothing else. Everything else will respond automatically. So let me show you just a little bit of what that actually means. So if I put in fact, let's write the body in here just so we can see. So if I put body size, font size 14 pixels. Now, if you don't have a font size value set to your body, then it will defer to the browser's default body size for setting EM, which I believe is 16 pixels on most browsers. So that will be one EM will be a default of 16 pixels or thereabouts. So if I then do font size 2 EM for the H1 tag, missed a closing bracket there, then that will be the equivalent of 28 pixels. If I did it 3, then it would be the equivalent of 3 times that, or 4 times that, or 5 times that. So it's taking the sizing from the body tag, but applying it to the H1 tag. Now, why this comes in handy, I'm going to move over into my style sheet, and I'm going to start writing in there, and then we can go back and view it. So if I put body and then I write some media queries for the body, then I can adjust all of the font sizes. So I've grabbed these 3 media queries that I've adjusted myself. Let me just copy those. And what I've done is I've gone onto the Elegant Themes website. I've taken the How to Identify Divi's Responsive Breakpoints blog post, which lists all of the breakpoints that are used in Divi. You're going to want to try and use the same breakpoints unless you have a specific reason not to. The reason being is that if somebody is adjusting their browser screen, you want things to break at the same time that everything else is breaking. Otherwise, it's just going to look really janky. So let's copy the media queries in. So I'm going to say anything above 981 pixels, which is the point where Divi breaks into the mobile menu. I'm going to set the font size as 16 pixels. I'm going to move it back down to 14 pixels if it's below 980 pixels. And if it's below 479 pixels, which is the point at which we would be looking at Divi on a mobile, then I'm going to take that right down to 12 pixels. So now, if I write my H1 as font size 2 EM, and then do the same thing for all of my other ones. So let's do H2, H3, H4. And again, you don't have to do all of them, just do the ones that you're using. If you're not using all of them, then you're not using all of them. And then I'm just going to adjust those sizes. So I'm going to put this as 1.6, this as 1.4. And if you're not sure about kind of converting the fixed pixel width of 12 pixels or 14 pixels to which EM size you want to use, you can go online and you can look at EM to pixel conversions, and some other smart people have done it for you already. So I might say, let's do 1.3, 1.2, and 1. And then from there, we can save that file. So if we head back into our blog post, clear that default, refresh that, you can see there that the text has been adjusted. So if we inspect now, it should all be EM values. Yeah, EM for H1, just check this. Yeah, 1.6, so that's perfect. So if I then now adjust my screen at various different sizes, all of those H tags are going to adjust their text. So they're at 980 pixels at the point that the mobile menu was initiated. We had an adjustment. And then as we go down to below 479 pixels, again, we'll have an adjustment. So all of that text is adjusting to be better sized for mobile without us ever having actually written a mobile query for any of the H tags. We just wrote EM values for the H tags, and then we applied media queries on the body tag only. Now, what this means is when I'm writing the rest of my CSS and I'm creating values, as long as I use EM, I'll never have to write another media query again. It will all adjust on the fly as these breakpoints are met on the body tag, which is going to save you, loads and loads of time. If you copied this and just saved this as a CSS file, I'll drop the CSS into the blog post that we write on Divi Space. Effectively, you have dealt with the size of all of your typography with 3 media queries instead of however many it would take to write normally. Does that make sense to everyone? Is there any questions on that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Take it from a CSS and font newbie. I'm more on the business side of things, but I mean, I'm looking at this and like, wow, this should have been, everybody should be doing it this way. It just makes logical sense because media queries will cave your head in if you're not a CSS expert. So
yeah, and if you're not careful, you'll end up writing or having to write CSS that you're having to include a whole bunch of media queries that aren't really necessary.
Right.
I'm a bigger fan of writing smart CSS rather than lots of CSS, and this is one example of how you can do that.
Boom. Well, I got to tell you, this is very beneficial, very helpful. A lot of people have commented about how it's a huge time saver, mind blown. That's what John says. Clinton has a question. Do we need to worry about tablet landscape and mobile landscape?
You don't have to, but if you want to, you can write different media queries, again, just on the body element. So if we go into the Elegant Themes blog on the breakpoints that are being used, you can see all of the different. So we've got large desktops, responsive desktop, tablet and below, media on tablet only. So this would be 980 would be a tablet in landscape, 768 would be a tablet in portrait, 767 would be a mobile in landscape, and 479 would be a mobile in, a smartphone in portrait. So if you wanted to, I only used 3 media queries in that example, but if you wanted to, you could use all of these media queries. But again, the only thing that you're going to have to adjust to make your typography responsive across the board is that body font size element, and everything else is going to scale and cascade automatically for you.
Okay, Anna has a question. She wants to know, why doesn't Divi do this as a default if it's an issue? She says that her Divi sites look fine on mobile without this. You want to answer that one?
Because, yeah, so Divi gives you so much
autonomy
power to adjust your fonts manually through the customizer, that if they did this by default, then they'd probably get more support questions asking why my text has shrunk on mobile than support questions asking why it hasn't. You can go in your Divi options, you can go in and you can create a font size for mobile, a font size for desktop, and a font size for tablet using the responsive customizer options. However, what you can't do is have those all in one place, i.e. in a style sheet where you can adjust those. So I think of it like this. Imagine trying to show this to a client and he goes, looks great, but I wish the font size was a little bit bigger on mobile. You've then got to go into the customizer option, find the options for mobile, adjust that, and that CSS sits somewhere completely different to the CSS for mobile, for tablet, and different for the CSS for desktop. Then you come into, what if you've used CSS in the modules themselves? Then you've now got CSS somewhere else. What if you've added it to the theme options CSS? in the back end of Divi, then you've got CSS somewhere else. And you could spend so much of your life chasing down this CSS when realistically, all you really need to do is install a child theme and have all of this in one place. Let me give you an example of why I prefer to do it this way. So I'll save this.
And while you're putting that together, I'm going to make a public service announcement, SJ.
Okay.
Obviously, SJ is pretty awesome at teaching this stuff. His teaching style is really easygoing. I understand him. I'm not a technical person, but I completely follow him along. Several people in the comments of the live feed have made comments about, wow, you know. I do want to put this out there. We are launching a course, Transforming Divi with CSS and jQuery. SJ created the course. It'll be launching on May the 1st. And anybody who wants to sign up for that course, we have a landing page that you can go get on the email list. We'll let you know when it's launching, and you'll get an early bird discount for it as well. So it might be the only time I do my little sales pitch in this webinar, SJ. But you're doing a great job, and I think you would help a lot of people who are struggling with this stuff. So go.
Cool. So I just want to we've covered off that all of that text is in a standard blog post. So it doesn't have any classes attached to it. It's just H1, H2, H3. If you are using Divi's inbuilt layout packs, for example, this one, then you will see that despite the fact that we have adjusted our H1 text and H2 text sizes here, in the layouts, they have kept the font sizes. So if I inspect this, you can see that the font size is set to 42 pixels. And the reason being is that the class that is attached to that text module is added in front of H1, and therefore it is overriding our style CSS. So you can see that our style CSS is here. If I click on that, then I can go straight into the style sheet there, but that's not being applied. So if we go to the elements, you can see that this font size is being picked up from this CSS. It's a bit hard to read when you see it like that. So if you inspect element and then click on the format brackets down here, that will put your CSS into a style that you're familiar with seeing it in. And you can see there that because this has a class attached to it, it's overriding our CSS. Now, because CSS is cascading, this beats ours. So if we wanted to override this as well, then we would have to beat this. And we could do that by one of two things. We could use two classes instead of one, which would make our CSS more important than this one. Or you could use an ID from further up the tree, or you could go into the module and change the CSS that's been applied here manually. Now, if you think about that, so just this layout pack, I believe, comes with 7 pages. On just this page, we've got a H1 tag there, a H1 tag there. What's this one? Another H1 tag there. All the way through this thing, we've got H1 tags. So do you want to go into this page and adjust all of those font sizes and then have to go back into that page and adjust all of those font sizes again if you have to make a change further down the line? Or do you want one line of CSS in a style sheet that does that for you?
Do I get to vote? I'm going with one line of style.
There you go. So what we could do, because we know that that has one class attached to it, in our style sheet, so where are we? Let's go. Open up our style sheet. And then next to our H1, we're going to put a comma, and then we're going to use some classes to outclass this CSS. So alongside that ETPB text class, we have a bunch of other classes that we can use. And we also know that it's in a section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine the ETPB section class with the ETPB text class to outclass the current class. That's a lot of times to say class in 30 seconds, I know. So if we do this and then that, so we've now set CSS for the H1 and we've set CSS for the section text H1 too, and we've set that to 2EM. So if we update that and go back to our home page and refresh, refresh that one more time. Hopefully that's picking up our font size now of 2EM. So if we wanted to make an adjustment across the board, we could make it by adjusting one line of CSS and refreshing our page. So that H1 tag has been changed everywhere. Rather than having to go into each individual module in a layout and make that adjustment by hand. So again, what I could do in my child theme is I could go through and I could copy that and I could apply it to every single one of these and then just adjust the H1 to H2, H3, etc. And then I'm saving myself, you know, a whole bunch of time trying to hunt down CSS that's hidden in various places in Divi. You know, I love Divi, but there's far too many places that you can put CSS and lose it.
Right.
Whereas this is just saved into a single style sheet that you can have a view on and adjust as and when you need to. So
we did have one question.
Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah.
From someone, SJ. Robert Bertof, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Freight, wants to know, you know, why not body font size 100%? I'm not sure which that pertains to. Maybe the last thing that you were going over, but he was.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. But again, 100% has to take its size from something. So if you're setting body to 100%, then it has to go further up the list of elements. And because it's the body, there's very few places it can go. So it would go to HTML. And again, the browser has a default size for HTML. So it might be 14 pixels, it might be 16, I'm not sure. But again, if you set it to 100%, what you're basically saying is whatever the browser says is the right size for this, let's use that. Whereas if we set a fixed pixel, we're saying this is the size to base all of our other sizes off. So you're taking control of that font sizing. Otherwise, you may get something different in Mozilla that you get in Chrome. You may get something different in Opera. You may get something different in Safari, because it all comes down to trusting the browser to set that font size.
Awesome. Well, SJ, we've blown, believe it or not, we've blown past our 30-minute time frame that we thought this would be. And we've had some really good engagement. I know it's been helpful for me. I hope that it's been helpful for everybody that's viewing. Based on the comments, they're loving it. If you want to quit sharing your screen, we can, you know, just chat with them for a minute. I do want everybody to know that we are recording this as well on our end, and we do plan on uploading this to YouTube, and we're going to follow it up with a subsequent blog post as well, where we will post the CSS that SJ went through this tutorial with, so that you can see it as examples and stuff, a complete write-up on it. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience, SJ?
No, I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to do. Just, I mean, we've talked about font size here, but just so you know that you can be adding font styles, font families, you know, any of the font properties that you want to this CSS to save having to write multiple CSS selectors to do one thing. But this is just an example of how you can make things responsive across the board. Awesome.
Well, we have one final question from, let's see here. Actually, I said one. I turned my head, SJ, and 3 more comments flew in. maybe it'll be a couple of questions. Chris,
No worries.
I don't know if it's a question or, well, it is a question, of both a statement and a question. He was making the statement that it's best to make these changes in a theme style sheet like you are. He said, or could all this be added into the Divi theme options styling area?
It could absolutely be added to that style area. I would say that if this is all you're going to do, then putting it there would be absolutely fine. But what I would say is that if this is part of larger changes that are essentially maybe going to include functions, maybe going to include making adjustments to the header, then why not just create a base child theme and then just have it ready to install? For me personally, it's going to be rarer for me not to want to make these changes than it is for me to want to make these changes. So I just have this in a child theme ready to go and upload. And then I know that at least then, looking forward thinking, if I ever have to make adjustments in the future, I've got it there and it's ready to go. It doesn't add anything to the load time. It doesn't make anything slower. It doesn't make anything harder to adjust. You're not going to break your theme by adding things to a child theme. So why not use one? It's probably better just to have one anyway.
I'm going to throw this out there. Divi Space has a child theme creator. If you don't know how to, SJ created a child theme maker. Basically, you just got to go fill out the form and it will create the child theme for you, and it'll create that style sheet and everything ready to go. So head on over to Divi Space, Google Divi Space child theme creator. You'll find it. I don't have the URL in my handy with me right now, but we will put it in the blog post. If you're new and you're just learning for the first times and you don't really know what a child theme is, we'd have several blog posts on Aspen Grove Studios and Divi Space about what a child theme is, the importance of it, when you should use it, which for us is always, by the way, our answer is always. And then if you need help with creating one, just head on over to Divi Space, fill out the child theme generator, and it'll send you an email with it that you can insert into your Divi website. SJ, this has been awesome, my friend. You've gotten lots of attaboys and high fives and some excited people and stuff. And,
I'll go through, I'll keep checking on this video as well. And if there's any new comments come through, then I'll just, add to it as and when. So if you're watching this and you're not live, don't worry, I'm still listening and I can still come back to you and answer any questions.
Yeah, and Anne-Marie asked one final question. I think what we'll do is, she said, could you add those breakpoints to the Divi Space child theme CSS? Absolutely. We already have that ability. When you go and fill out that form, add the CSS that you want in there and it'll automatically put it in there for you and stuff. So it is built.
And you can make unlimited edits to a child theme after the fact as well. So even if Correct. You just create the most basic child theme, you can constantly be adding to that.
Great point. Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Well, boom. Hey, Corey, glad you could join us, my friend. You're a little late. We're about to get off. It's late in the UK. SJ, again, thank you so much. I do want to say this. Next week, we're going to be doing another webinar, and we will use the Zoom platform because I did learn some stuff here. People can see it. The people that did join the Zoom link can see a whole lot better than on the Facebook Live link. So watch for the video, watch for the blog post, go sign up for the course. If nothing else, you'll get updates on the webinars that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have 2 or 3 more planned. If I would have been more prepared, I probably would have the titles to those today, but maybe SJ has them. Do you have them in your head, SJ, what we're going to go over?
I don't think we're 100% decided on what those are. So if there are, if anybody's got feedback or if there's something particular that you'd like to see CSS jQuery related, then let us know and we can wrap the future content around those things.
Boom. That's a great idea. Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us. It's been fantastic. This is our first Facebook live stream on Divi Space, I believe, ever, at least for me. And thanks for joining, and we'll catch you guys later. Thanks, SJ.
Cheers, guys.